Thank you, Dorsey. I am so glad to be co-hosting this panel with Joy, and so glad that all of you are still here and watching the program. Please remember to visit kingandbreakingsilence.org for more information and resources, and a reminder that you can participate in the conversation in the chat. So, is this moment different? Can the terror and tragedy being visited on Palestinians and so many others harmed by colonialism be a turning point? We have asked three activists and thinkers to help us see just that potential. Professor Emeritus Charles Omowale Simmons is the CEO and founder of the Hush House Black Community Museum in Detroit. He was a member of the Uhuru Youth Organization, the League of Revolutionary Black Workers, and the National Conference of Black Lawyers. Professor Simmons was a United Nations and international correspondent for Muhammad Speaks newspaper. He covered the decolonization liberation movements in Africa, the Middle East, international peace and justice movements, and was a witness for peace in Palestine. Kathy Wanpovi Sanchez is also an elder in the struggle. She has dedicated her life's passion within the hopes and dreams of Tewa Women United. Tewa Women United is a multicultural and multiracial organization founded and led by Native women. As a former executive director, she now serves as an elder with TWU's Cyan Circle of Grandmothers. Kathy has been an active promoter of well-being through connecting mind, heart, body, and spirit. Huwaida Araf is a Palestinian-American civil human rights attorney and social justice activist. She's been involved in legal and grassroots initiatives for Palestinian rights for the last 2 decades, including founding the Nobel Peace Prize nominated International Solidarity Movement and leading the Free Gaza movement. Huwaida was one of the primary organizers of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla and was traveling with it when it was lethally attacked by Israeli forces on May 31st, 2010. She was a 2020 delegate to the Democratic National Convention and a 2022 candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives for Michigan's 10th Congressional District. Charles, in order to help us understand how this struggle has evolved over several decades, your personal history of support for the Palestinian goes way back, including signing an open letter in 1970. Please tell us about that background.
I became familiar with the, well, I want to go way back to the 1940s, because I remember the establishment of Palestine very clearly. I remember that Ralph Bunche, because he was a superstar in the Black community. And we had a feeling about Bunche that the establishment at that time, that, and I was very young, but I just remember the adults talking about it. And I remember how they thought that this was going to be, that the Jewish population was going to be integrated with the Arab population in a positive spirit, and that socialism was on the agenda. And we were thinking about the transition that was taking place from the colonization into a new period of democracy. Now, we didn't know, the adults I was around, they didn't know much about they know very little, if anything, about international affairs. They just had some basic ideas about justice. So that was a disappointment, that it turned into a very oppressive relationship.
Thank you, Charles, for sharing with us the timeline of your support with the Palestinian people and the revolutionary spirit. Kathy, we would love to hear from you. We know that you're a part of a global network of Indigenous people. How does that connect to the Palestinian struggle?
So I'm bringing the Native perspective of courageousness. They always ask us a question about, as Indigenous people, about resistance, or how can you have survived genocide and still be of a good, kind, sharing, caring heart? So I'd like to show a picture of my pueblo, and that pueblo is San Ildefonso, and it's Ojoge Owinge, place where we're bound by 2 rivers. And so naming the place from where you're from grounds you back into your identity. And so when genocide happens, a lot of people are taken from the land. Their language is taken. They want to kill the spirit that is within them. So my hope and my prayer for the young people is that transformation is already in us. We just need to summon the strength, the courageousness in order to be able to feel that we are enough. What we do at home, what we do in our schools, what we do in our community, that's enough if everybody in the whole world would just be of that positive strength, it reaches all people everywhere. And so the courageousness, we use the term indigeneity because everybody is indigenous to the land that they were birthed into, and you belong, and that connection is there, and people can't erase you and can't force you, they can't kill it out of you. You're already that soulful person. Everybody is, from the baby's birthing time all the way, that umbilical cord to Mother Earth is there.
Let me pick up on that, Kathy, and bring Huwaida into the conversation. I'm thinking you are a veteran of this struggle. Can you help us understand that in the context of your story?
Now, I am a first-generation Palestinian American. My parents came to this country when my mother was 9 months pregnant with me. And it is because they wanted me and later on my siblings to have a chance at what America promised, right? Freedom, opportunity, equality. And I use those terms in the loose sense because I know that we're still struggling actually to achieve those things here across communities in the United States. And we didn't have a lot growing up, but we had enough, and I'm grateful for that. And after graduating from college, I started to think about my responsibility, because there are millions of Palestinians around the world that don't have what I have because of the choice and the ability for my parents to come to the United States when they did. And so how could I give back? Then in terms of what can I do and where is my role in the Palestinian liberation struggle, brought me first to Jerusalem. I went back to Jerusalem fresh out of college, and it was to work for a conflict resolution. They called it conflict resolution program that brought Palestinian and Israeli youth together to learn more about each other, break down these walls, they call them walls of hatred, and to get past these stereotypes that are created in these kinds of situations, brought these youth together. And of course, there was a lot of positiveness to that kind of work. But I eventually left, and I am now vehemently opposed to these kinds of programs. And it's not because I am opposed to dialogue or debate, or to ever be in any kind of situation where you're reaching out to, let's call it the other side. But these programs tend to be used as a convenient substitute for doing the work that is necessary to break down the systems of oppression that tear communities apart. So it's easy to say, oh, the Palestinian and Israeli conflict, and there must be negotiation and there must be dialogue. But if that's being used and said to maintain a status quo that is deeply oppressive to one side, then engaging in that kind of work becomes counterproductive to the liberation. But I left and co-founded the International Solidarity Movement. And that was intentional to support the Palestinian movement, the organizing on the ground for liberation, to confront oppressive policies of the Israeli military, whether it was land confiscation, movement restrictions, massive arrests, home demolitions, which were happening on a weekly, if not daily basis. And the International Solidarity Movement called people from all over the world to come to the occupied Palestinian territories, to see with their own eyes what is happening, and to stand with Palestinians and to march with them, to organize with them. And it's not saying you have to be pro-Palestinian to do this. It was saying you have to be pro-freedom to do this.
As I'm listening to you, Huwaida, it's taking me back to my own experience, many experiences, but in particular, my experience in the movement that opposed the U.S. assault on Vietnam. And there too, over a period of time, a spirit, a transformation, if you will, in the attitudes, in the hearts and the minds of U.S. Americans took place, and a mass movement emerged, which together with what was happening globally, and together, of course, with what was happening in Vietnam itself, an enormous change took place. And I say that and invite any on our panel. My feeling is we're in that kind of moment now, that this feels very much to me like a certain phase in the movement in solidarity with the Vietnamese. And like the Southern Freedom Movement, and for that matter, the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Charles, I'll throw this to you, but do you share the sense that there's something different about this moment, that the depth and breadth of global support for Palestine feels different?
I do feel that. I feel that definitely. It's a qualitative difference in previous struggles. I think we saw some of this with the George Floyd protests, the international support, and I see it's a rising. And I wrote something on Twitter the other day. I said we're experiencing a global slave revolt against imperialism and neocolonialism, and it is a global uprising because many, and it's not only the people who are Muslims and Arabs who are supporting it. As you see from South Africa bringing the petition, we've got people throughout especially throughout the global South. Many of whom have experienced colonialism and neocolonialism themselves, and they're still in it. You know, so it's not something that's gone. And I see a new possibility of going beyond, as King was saying, going beyond Vietnam. We can now go beyond this. We're going beyond in terms of globally addressing this imperialist neocolonialist system. Because the United States is not just a bystander giving a little support. I mean, the United States has a parallel or a leading position in this genocide. I mean, we're not bystanders. We are, because the United States wants control of that oil throughout the Middle East, not because we need it, but because we want to maintain control over other countries that need it, like China and Russia and the rest of the world that need oil. We want to have our foot on their neck, just like the colonial powers did. So the colonial mentality is alive and well among the elites. And among the elites in the global South, we got the neo-colonialist puppets who give lip service to progressive change, but and on the other hand, many of them are still stuck as being lackeys for the system and are opposed to workers and peasants in their own countries. So, but it's good that all of this is coming together. It's becoming clear. The sheets are being pulled off of the global clan, as I see it, and so it's the marching can take new forms now. I mean, because we got to confront, and I don't know if this is the right time, but we got to confront U.S. policies of militarism and genocide, and we got to change what the State Department is all about. The whole we have to build a movement that is calling for a peaceful U.S. policy globally and locally, a policy based on real democracy, not BS democracy for some D, but we have to talk about some serious democracy. And as Sister Kathy is saying, we got to think in a different way about what type of society we want. And we don't wait until a certain date to start doing that. We have to start that right now. We have to start this thinking that Kathy's talking about and implement that on a national level and put it in the White House. It has to be in the State Department, in the Pentagon. We don't need that Pentagon. I mean, and so that what we're spending money on with the Pentagon needs to be explained to the American people in a way that hasn't been done before, which is what's causing so much of the problems domestically. And not only in the United States, but throughout the West. All the Western countries are experiencing this severe attack on working people and the poor. And so we all have a stake in changing the policies that the global leadership have in destroying the Palestinians, in destroying this planet. But we can do that. And so this movement right now, led by young people, has a lot of energy that we experienced before. But it's larger and broader and deeper. And the young folks have a much deeper, clearer understanding of what's going on now because we've got social media. They can't lie to us like they used to. I mean, they are, but we have alternatives to get information. And so that's contributing to this uprising that's taking place. But they can't turn us back anymore. I mean, we're going forward, and we're going forward, and we're going to keep on moving.
So on that line, I would just also like to add that it takes a lot of courage to do, and I'm speaking to the young people about transformational energy. So that energy is heart connected. It is in us, and that transformation, like I said, needs a lot of not acknowledgement that each and every one of us can be very courageous, and there are different identifications of that courageousness, and one of them is I talked about the cosmic courageousness because our cells relate to the stars, to the planets, but then also our ancestors. The words that or the steps, simple steps that I have thought of in the dream space with the ancestors is to stop what you're doing, but pivot. And that means on your toes, you completely pivot fast, but you don't run, you don't confront, you drop. You drop on your knees, you drop and kiss Mother Earth, you get your roots growing again. That's what they've done to us. They've tried to cut us off and not be connected to land, not be connected to the air, not be connected to the heart energy. So once you get grounded in knowing who you are, search into that, ask and in your dream space to your ancestors, and you get rooted. But once you're rooted and once you have that courageous stirring, then you rise. We all rise together. Then we pollinate, then we move to spread that moral courage, physical courage, social courage. There's many different ways that you can summon that and get ready to be strong in your voice. In America, we need to really unite and be strong, be heart-centered, to ask and say, no, this has got to stop. No, but then not use the energy in confrontation, but in uniting in that loving, caring, sharing unity of voice that resonates all the way into the cosmos. And that breath of life comes back to us. It's a very cyclical nature that we need to honor, that we as humans and the young ones, everyone has that ability.
I so appreciate that message from you, not just now, but over the years. What it brings to mind, I want to ask Huwaida about what she thought when South Africa, a non-Muslim country, brought the genocide against the Palestinians that's going on now to the international court, because this movement is so multifaceted. Huwaida, can you help us understand how you see the importance of this action by South Africa?
You know, the significance of South Africa filing an application at the International Court of Justice against Israel for violations of the Convention on Genocide is multifaceted. First of all, I say it's courageous, but courageous not because it should be seen as a wow thing to do, because it is the right thing to do, because it is actually South Africa is upholding its own obligations under the convention. The convention, which 153 countries are signatory to, is a convention on the prevention and punishment of the crime of genocide. And so the first thing in Article 1, all signatories promise to do their part to prevent genocide. And yet we are seeing what's happening, and countries haven't been doing anything. It took South Africa to step up, and I say, why again, I go back to the courageous, because we know that international law has been hijacked in a way, and sorry to use that term, but it is the truth. In order to protect kind of colonialist and imperialist interests, it has been used to protect Israel. And in a sense, it has failed if we talk about an international legal order, because the law is supposed to protect the most vulnerable, amongst us, and it has failed to protect the Palestinian people in any kind of way. And that is largely due to the fact that the United States has been wielding its power not only to protect Israel, for example, in the UN Security Council from any kind of sanction or action, but also throwing its weight around and preventing other countries with threats of sanctions or cutting off aid or other things, so that they don't do what they could do. And so South Africa, in a sense, took that on and said, despite whatever's going to come down on us, we have to do this. And so it was courageous in that way, because they probably are going to face the wrath of the United States.
They will.
For me, I am curious to hear from all of you when it comes to transformation. With the National Council of Elders and Younger Organizers, we reached out to younger organizers and asked them the question around transformation and what work they're doing with transformation here in the US. And they all had different thoughts on it, and transformation is showing up in a number of ways. Speaking of courageous, and we see the act of South Africa, I would love for you all just to speak to what young people can do at this time for us to unify, for us to be on message, for us to organize that unifies us. If you can just offer some thoughts around that for the younger organizers who are doing this work, but also those who don't think they're doing the work, who are afraid to talk about what's happening in Gaza, who are unsure of which side to take, even if there is a side. Would love for you all to share that. And maybe we can start with Kathy and have you all share as you wish.
They are bombarded. That's the overwhelmingness of this generation, is that they need to just go search within themselves, get that courageousness to say, yeah, I want to learn about that. I have to say that I am needing that guidance. To ask and to need are not saying you're not enough. You are searching, and it's okay to search. It's okay to, and if someone does not give you the answer that feels right in your gut, that doesn't anchor quite right, go and seek again. Just keep looking, keep searching till you find that place where love exists, where we have the moral courage to really unite with all peoples and unite from where you're at. Unite in your school, unite in your family. But it's a global unity that happens once you turn that switch and are united in a heart-centered way. It reaches the legislators, it reaches the governments, it reaches all people. Do that reach. And yes, we love and appreciate, we were young once, and we were told, I should be quiet. That was the answer. No,
Young in
it's
spirit.
all of us together, we can do it. The young ones are right alongside of us. They're not way generations ahead. We're together, so let's stay together in our times of struggle, in our times of addressing the grief, the loss, the pain. There we can, with our ancestral presence as well, be grounded.
Beautiful.
Can we hear some response from Charles and Huwaida as well?
Yes, I agree with my sister. The role of youth in social change is very important globally. It's young people on the front lines in most of the struggles around the world today, and historically, young people have always been in the forefront of these battles because of the great energy and the great feeling of justice that young people bring, and an uncompromising spirit, which is very important. I also agree that building unity is crucial. We have, and one of our weaknesses in our global social justice movement, especially in the United States, is our lack of unity between the various groups who are involved in social struggles. Many people environmentalists don't talk to the trade union people, and some they don't talk to the people who are dealing with police brutality or prison reform or housing. We're all in the same struggle, and we have to realize that. And we have to lead, as Sister Sanchez said, lead with our hearts. We can find issues we agree on. My wife used to say, at a minimum, we could all agree that we love our children and build on that. But we've got to unite, and then we'll have more of a voice and more policy making power by being unified. And so that should be a major goal. And in the process of building the unity, we have to introduce to all of ours, especially among the activist population, that the need for understanding local and global connections, that we are part of a global struggle. And so we need to know what's going on around the world and how that impacts people in whatever country we're in. We're not isolated as we think we are because of the bubble that the media tries to keep us in. And to understand that we have friends and allies around the planet. So those things are extremely important. I agree. We got to lead with the heart, build more unity, and the global local connections. Those are my words for young people.
I want to start by actually going back and connecting the comments that Charles and Kathy made in their original presentations. And Charles commented on when he first met Palestinians. So to go back to this kind of original question, is this a transformation that we're seeing here? And I hope so. It is unfortunate that it's taking, a live stream genocide of a people to bring us to this point, but hopefully it's a point that we cannot go back from. That's not to say that we still don't have massive forces that we have to overcome, because there is a lot of money and a lot of kind of colonial and economic and financial interests poured into keeping, the Palestinians from achieving their freedom. And so we have to kind of step up our work, and we step it up through the connectiveness, and social media has offered us, a way to be more connected and to communicate with each other, to get our information and to organize in ways that we haven't been able to do before. I think the youth are doing a tremendous job, and please just keep it up so that we can ensure that this is a transformative moment for Palestine, for Palestinian liberation, and for, the continued fight against all forms of domination and oppression.
Joy, I think we've had a transformative conversation about transformation.
That's right.
Definitely. I want to say thank you to Huwaida, Charles, and Kathy for sharing your perspectives and your thoughts and your experiences, because it's helped me too as a younger organizer. And I plan to share this with my close friends and fellow organizers. And I think about the quote behind me on the wall, or the question I should say, and will it be easy? Nope. Is it worth it? Absolutely.
That's right.